My name is Raphael Banaman Kwati, and you're wondering why it took me a lot of time to actually get this video started. I'm just short of words to express how I feel as at now after our 5-1 mauling at the hands of Morocco, the Atlas Lions of Morocco. I mean, words cannot fully express the fact that we're pummeled by 5 goals to 1. But I mean, the milk has already been spilled. We've lost. The most important thing is that we pick up the lessons from this particular match and move on as a team. But there are a few things that I have to put out, and I like to start by saying that the technical team headed by Coach Ibrahim Tanko, they need to render an unqualified apology to the country. I mean, how do you set and oversee the boys being pummeled by 5 goals to 1? I mean, it's unheard of. The last time we lost by such a huge margin was at Morocco, and we lost to our rivals, that is Nigeria, the under 17 side. We lost to them by 6 goals to 1. But fast forward, I mean, football has advanced. I would expect that a lot of things would have changed under the current setup. But I mean, in yesterday's game, I noticed a few things that I hope that moving forward, the technical team would be able to resolve as soon as possible. First and foremost, I think that our boys gave the Moroccan side too much respect. I mean, in the game of football, when you give your opponents too much respect, they tend to hurt you the most. And you look at the way our boys set up to play, it took close to about 40 minutes thereof before we settled in a game. I mean, who does that in modern football? It's unheard of. The very first few minutes of the game, I mean, our boys were just all over the pitch. They just couldn't get their structure right, their rhythm right. They couldn't get the tactics right. And I feel that the Moroccan side might have watched us in our last game against, that is Congo. In our last game against Congo, we lost that game due to lack of concentration in the regulation time. We lost that match. We won that match actually, but the fact that we conceded 2 goals in regulation time, I mean, it speaks volumes of the fact that our boys could actually lose concentration when it needs them of the most. And our lack of concentration in that particular match, aiding us to concede 2 goals in regulation time, that was the same demeanor, that was the same character that we played the match against Morocco. In the very first 7 minutes, we had conceded 2 goals. I mean, our guys couldn't get in shape again. And on the 30th minute mark, we were just 3-0 down. I mean, who would have thought that the under 23 side that had a lot of, I mean, experienced guys in there, that had a lot of boys that had exposure, would be losing 3-0 on the 30th minute mark. But I mean, that's the game of football. I would expect that in a game against, that is Guinea, which is a do and die affair, would have corrected our mistakes. We won't give the opponents, I mean, respect is a part of football, but I would not expect that we give them far too much respect at our own detriment where we eventually lose the game. I would expect that they would give them that considerable amount of respect, but when it comes to the game of football, I mean, you go and do what is expected of you. Then again, I noticed that with the respect aspect, the concentration aspect was also there. I mean, we were lacking in concentration. What was expected of us, we couldn't do eventually, and that didn't play in our favor. We eventually lost that game by 5 goals to 1. I mean, the tactics that Coach Tanko put out, I felt that somebody like Salim Adams, I mean, this is a player that plays for FC Cincinnati in the United States of America. You would ask yourself that how many minutes of game time has he got under his belt? Very few minutes. You understand? And so how do you trust a player into such a KG affair? Emmanuel Esiam, FC Basel, he tried very, very well for Ghana against, that is Congo. But I mean, I don't know why he was dropped for the second game against Morocco. But when he came on in the 55th minute of the game, you would realize that, I mean, he brought a bit of solidity in the heart of midfield. I mean, he was partnered by, that is Dominic Nsobela, and other guys in the heart of midfield. At least he brought some considerable level of solidity in the midfield. So I would expect that moving forward in against Guinea, I mean, Guinea is a very physical side, physical oriented side. They play on the pace. They are able to hit you with a counter as well. So I would expect that in a game against Guinea, Coach Tanko would notice these few errors and pointers and be able to remedy them as soon as possible. Fatawi Isako, I mean, this is a guy that divides a lot of opinions. Fatawi Isako, this is a guy that divides a lot of opinions. He splits opinions on both edges of the table. I mean, in a game against that is Congo, he was trusted with the responsibility from playing out of the wings. Then later in the second half, he moved centrally. And he actually gave the pre-assist to Emmanuel Yeboah, eventually giving the assist to Ernest Nwama. The question is, where do we play that guy in our heart of the game? Where do we play him? I mean, he's a guy that has abundance of talent. His skill set is just refreshing. But Ibrahim Tanko, I mean, at a tournament, it has very few days for recovery, very few days for training, and very few days of tinkering with some of his players. You understand? But I would expect that somebody like Fatawi Sahako, I mean, he can become a cogwheel to which we can build our team around. And I feel that once we get it right, I mean, we'll be able to head to position. We'll be able to do very well. Some of his free kicks he's been playing, I mean, he left mark to be desired. In our first game against Congo, he was just ballooning the ball all over. In our second game against Morocco, it was as if the guys did not train effectively for free kicks and set pieces. And this is one thing that I often ask myself whether they train on set pieces. Because, I mean, games are evolving. Sometimes you don't create clear chats, you don't create clear cut chances in the game. You would need set pieces to rely on. You need free kicks, you need corner kicks, you need some bit of these things to help you to win games. And if we are getting free kicks and corners and we are not making the full best of it, I mean, where do we go from here? I would expect that Coach Ibrahim Tanko and his technical team have noticed these things and would develop them to make us win very last game against that is Guinea. Guinea have 3 points. They beat Congo. We also have 3 points. We beat Congo. A very final game, and a lot of onus lies on us to make sure that we win that particular game. I would expect that the boys, I mean, after 5-1 humiliation at the hands of Morocco, they need to get themselves up. They need to psych themselves up for the task ahead. It's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. I mean, in a very last match, I mean, everybody could eventually win. Guinea just need a point to qualify. We need all the 3 points. And once we start right, once we are able to settle in our shape, once we are able to get the rhythm right, the tactics right, to interpret the vision of the coach on the field of play, I expect that we'll be able to win that game against Guinea. It's not going to be easy, but I mean, we have a lot of guys in the setup. I mean, I don't want to name names, but I know we have a lot of guys in the setup that will be able to deliver for us when push comes to shove. So on Friday, that is when we are eventually playing that match, and I would expect that the boys would have learnt their lessons, the technical team would have learnt their lessons, and I expect the whole nation to rally behind. That is the under 23, the Black Meteors of Ghana, in their ultimate match against Guinea. It's very, it's one of those games that will be cagey, but once we get our acts right, I mean, I expect that we'll win that game against that is Guinea. So that is about it for today. My name is Raphael Banaman Kwote. Subscribe to the button below. Keep up alive with sports.